With Kevin Harvick retiring, Busch Beer reportedly may leave Stewart-Haas Racing for Ross Chastain. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I hope you're doing well. A triple header Las Vegas Motor Speedway weekend is on deck. If you're a YouTube Shorts enjoyer, I've debuted a new series the past couple weeks, Fast Forecast, where I give you my picks for the Cup Series race. Up above my head somewhere, you can click the link to check out my latest episode for Las Vegas, something I'm gonna try to do every week for every Cup Series race, at least this season. Let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree with my takes, I'm 1 for 1. I picked Kyle Busch to win Auto Club, so I'm batting 1,000 to start the season. Now let's get to the latest news. Todd Gilliland will in fact race full-time this season. Remember, right before the season began, Front Row Motorsports announced they were removing Todd Gilliland from the 38 car for select races to give Zane Smith some seat time. A couple weeks ago, Todd Gilliland announced that he'd signed a 5-race deal with Rick Ware Racing to fill out most of the gaps on his schedule, but there was still one race remaining, the spring Talladega date. Well, Todd Gilliland and Front Row Motorsports were able to find a sponsor, so Gilliland, for that race, will drive the 36 car. Super weird. So Gilliland's gonna run a full schedule. He's gonna drive the 38, the 15, and the 36. But I'm happy for Todd Gilliland that he is in fact going to run the full, complete 36 race Cup Series schedule, plus the exhibitions. He ran the Clash, he'll run North Wilkesboro, or at least will compete in the open race. I like Todd Gilliland. I thought he had a solid rookie season last year. He got that 38 car its first top 5 finish since his father, David Gilliland, finished second at Talladega way back in 2013. So I thought Todd did about everything he was supposed to do in that car last season, despite not even having any Xfinity Series experience. But it is a tricky situation because Front Row has Zane Smith waiting in the wings. He's been to 3 straight championship fours in the trucks. He just won the Truck Series championship. He also just won the season opener at Daytona. Zane Smith is ready for a Cup Series opportunity. I think a lot of folks in the garage see Zane Smith as a potential future Cup Series star. He has a high ceiling potentially, and so Front Row naturally wants to get this guy some opportunities. So it's a tricky situation. I like Todd Gilliland, but I also like Zane Smith a lot. And Front Row right now with only 2 full-time cars and Michael McDowell coming off the season he had last year, you can't replace him. At least not yet. The team is kind of forced to play musical chairs with the drivers they currently have. I guess it's a good problem to have too many good drivers, not enough seats for them, but you know, a problem is still a problem. I'm glad Todd Gilliland will race all 36 points races this season. Now, speaking of sponsorship, as we know, NASCAR is very unique when compared to other major sports. It's not enough for athletes to just be great at what they do. In NASCAR, corporate sponsorship plays a huge role when determining how far a driver's career will go or how competitive a race team is able to be. As cheesy as it is when Denny Hamlin thanks FedEx after he has a good race, he means it. Without FedEx's support all these years, Denny Hamlin more than likely would not be a future Hall of Fame driver, even though the skill perhaps was there all along. So sponsorship, especially major sponsorship, primary sponsorship that covers most of the schedule, is very, very important. And yesterday, there was a report from Adam Stern, Sports Business Journal, about Anheuser-Busch, the parent company of Busch Beer, Busch Light, that currently sponsors Kevin Harvick in the NASCAR Cup Series. They've worked with Kevin Harvick for at least a decade now, and they've been with Stewart-Haas Racing since Harvick joined the team in 2014. But according to Adam Stern, with Harvick set to retire at the end of this year, Busch Beer is considering taking their valuable sponsorship dollars elsewhere. Stern writes, Anheuser-Busch has been having conversations with NASCAR teams about its plans for next year after Kevin Harvick retires, according to people familiar with the matter. And Trackhouse Racing is said to be a favorite to land the Brewers' business. I'll link the full article down in the description below so you can check it out, but Adam Stern continues, industry sources familiar with the situation have identified the third-year team Trackhouse Racing and its breakout star driver Ross Chastain as a likely favorite to partner with Anheuser-Busch next year, suggesting the sides have already been having deep discussions. Whoa, potentially switching drivers, potentially switching teams, manufacturers, this is a big deal. Busch Beer, by my count last season, I went back and looked, I believe sponsored Harvick for 17 out of 38 possible events. Nearly half the schedule. That's big money. Of course, Busch Beer is also a premier partner of NASCAR alongside Geico, Xfinity, and Coca-Cola. So that's real money. That's a big brand to potentially lose, or in the case of Trackhouse and Ross Chastain, to potentially gain. Now, Adam Stern reached out to Busch Beer for a statement, and this is what he got. Busch Light has and always will be passionate about NASCAR. We continue to be invested in the sport as an official sponsor and will always find ways to show up at races and provide new opportunities for our fans in 2023 and beyond. When it comes to sponsoring new drivers, nothing is off the table. Okay, before I give you guys my reaction to this news, we've already got Kyle Busch's reaction. Busch Beer, no relation, but Kyle Busch is maybe hoping there's some. Busch on Twitter said, "I feel like this already has my name written all over it." This is the second time in the last few months Kyle Busch has used Twitter to flirt with a potential sponsor. Not sure it's gonna work in this case, but man, can you imagine if Busch Beer teams up with Kyle Busch and runs the Budweiser branding? The return of a red Budweiser number 8. With Kyle Busch behind the wheel. Oh man, the opportunity's almost too good to pass up. Come on, Busch Beer. Even just a one-off. You can go sponsor Chastain the rest of the year just for one race. That would be pretty hilarious. Anyway, okay, sorry, moving on. I am not surprised in the slightest that Busch Beer would be looking at Ross Chastain. He's a younger driver, someone they could team up with for 10 or 15 years potentially if all goes well. And Ross Chastain has become a fan favorite. He's refreshingly himself. He's unapologetic about how he drives. Up until very recently, he's had to race as if every opportunity may be his last. He's got a brand, and I'm not just talking about the Melon Man brand, I'll get to that in a moment, but he's one of the few drivers in NASCAR today who has a distinctive driving style that the casual viewer can see. He's aggressive, but more than that, he's willing to take risks or potentially put NASCAR in a position to make a bold call. See the Indy Road Course last year, or the Hail Melon. He's got a brand on the track, but now off the track, and this is where I'll mention the Melon Man brand, he's blue collar. Like much of NASCAR's fan base, he comes from a family of watermelon farmers. Blue collar, I think Busch Beer, that's their target audience. Ross Chastain has somehow become both relatable and superhuman at the same time. NASCAR has needed a personality like Ross Chastain to have success in the Cup Series for a long, long time, and so I'm not surprised that a major brand, a premier partner of NASCAR, would be interested in teaming up with the Melon Man long term. And why wouldn't you want to be a part of Trackhouse, a team on the rise, one of NASCAR's new age teams like 2311 Racing or Legacy Motor Club or Tricon Garage, where it's not so-and-so guy racing. It's a brand, Trackhouse, Pitbull. They were one of the first teams I saw last year to kind of spruce up the area by their hauler in the garage, trying to woo potential sponsors or guests, VIPs. Trackhouse is a team on the rise, and let's be honest, Stewart-Haas Racing, the team Busch Beer currently sponsors, appears to be a team on the decline. I like Stewart-Haas Racing's current driver lineup, I really do. I think Chase Briscoe has the potential to be a star. Last year, winning a race, getting all the way to the round of 8 in his sophomore season was huge. He's got support from Mahindra and High Point, that's big. I think Ryan Preece, this year may be a little slow going, first year with a new team, and he's driving a car that, remember, last year was like 26th in points. They brought Chad Johnson over, I'm not sure if he'll improve on that too much. But I think Ryan Preece is a really good driver, and I think a couple of years from now, potentially, he could be a really solid contender. I like Eric Almirola and I like Kevin Harvick right now. Harvick's still a championship contender, Almirola's a playoff contender, but Harvick's gone after this year and Almirola's gone after this year or next most likely, so SHR will have holes to fill sooner rather than later, and if Busch Beer leaves, they're also going to have a major sponsor gap to fill. Again, by my count, Busch Beer sponsored nearly half of Harvick's races last year. That's a big, big company. Who's SHR going to put in that 4-car next year? Cole Custer? Maybe they're able to grab someone like John Hunter Nemechek. I keep saying this, but can they pry Zane Smith away from front row? We just talked about him and the musical chairs going on over there. There's not enough room for Zane as things currently sit. Can SHR somehow pry him away, work with Ford? I don't know if that's even possible, but I guess there's Riley Hertz, but he comes with his own funding. And I like the guy, I like the kid. He's improved, but he still just hasn't done anything. I would hate to see a premier organization like Stewart-Haas Racing sign someone who's just clearly a paid driver solely because they need the sponsorship. I don't like the way that sounds. The point is there are a lot of questions about that 4-car, so I don't blame Busch Beer for wanting to look elsewhere. I mean, Kevin Harvick, let's just be honest, has carried that team for the last 2 or 3 seasons, really since he's got there, but especially the last couple of seasons. He won 9 races in 2020, and then in 2021, the whole team just fell off a cliff. It's hard to comment on Stewart-Haas Racing struggles because I just don't exactly know why they've been so irrelevant the last couple of years. 3 years ago, they were on the same pedestal as Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports. Now they're a B-tier team, I'd say. I remember Rodney Childers saying at the end of 2020 that there was a rule, some loophole that NASCAR kind of closed up that took away an aero advantage the SHR cars had found, I believe. And maybe ever since that happened, the SHR cars have just been behind. They have not been able to find that magic combination they had before. Maybe that's all it is. But even the last couple of years when they've struggled, Kevin Harvick has still looked like a contender. He didn't win in 2021, but he was still in the playoffs. He made some noise. Last year, he won twice at the end of the regular season, looked like a legit contender until technical difficulties, we'll just say that, took him out of the playoffs early. So Kevin Harvick in his mid to now late 40s has been carrying this team. He's about to leave. I like Briscoe. I like Preece, but it's still too early to say for sure. I don't blame Busch Beer for wanting to go to a team like Trackhouse, who's clearly on the rise. I mean, Chastain was in the championship for. Both Chastain and Suarez have shot out of the gates this year with a couple of top 10s each. It just stinks because I don't want to see Stewart-Haas Racing continue this downward spiral. I don't know what needs to change. Again, I like Chase Briscoe. I like Ryan Preece. This season is still very early. Perhaps they figured something out. Perhaps SHR as a team will be greatly improved here in 2023. But now I think the pressure is officially on. You've got a major sponsor talking to other teams, looking like they're going to pull out of your program. It's time for Stewart-Haas Racing to get things together. They need to get a couple of cars in the playoffs, minimum. They need to win more races. They need to contend more frequently. They need to attract new sponsors to potentially replace the gap Busch Beer is about to leave. So, I don't know. It's a tough team to predict because I just don't know why they've struggled the last couple of years. Rodney Childers didn't forget how to set up a car. Kevin Harvick clearly didn't forget how to drive. Almirola's numbers have slipped the last couple of years. I don't think the problem starts with the drivers. It's behind the scenes. It's whatever advantages they were finding 3 years ago, they have not found the past 2 seasons. Maybe they found some here in 2023 and they're going to have a big year as a team. I hope so that they can maybe potentially retain Busch Beer as a sponsor or find some other big companies like Mahindra joined Chase Briscoe a couple years ago. That would be great for this team. I'm just thinking out loud, but I want to know what you think down in the comments below. Are you surprised to hear that Busch Beer is talking to other teams, other drivers? Do you think Stewart-Haas Racing is going to have a bounce back season this year? Let me know down in the comment section below. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave it a like. If you're new and you love talking all things NASCAR, you're in the right place. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And thanks as always to my very generous Patreon supporters. I will see you again very, very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Again, triple header, Trucks Xfinity Cup at Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend. Can't wait to watch, can't wait to react. I will see you again very soon.